Peter Rex wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal. It is called, "I'm leaving Seattle for Texas so my employees can be free." He was in Seattle and moved his tech company here to Texas, and in so doing has a lot of things to say about the tech world, censorship in the tech world, what sort of the base code of politics and attitudes are in the tech world. And so since we talk about that world so very, very much, it's a pleasure to welcome Peter Rex. Peter, welcome. How are you doing, sir?
Mark, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Tell me about you. Tell me about the company. Who are you and what is your company?
So Rex is a technology company that's building new tech leadership, and we are doing so here in Texas. We relocated from the West Coast, seeing that the situation over there, the soil really on the West Coast, we had been in San Francisco first, then Seattle second, was becoming less and less open to new ideas, different ways to do things, and particularly hostile towards Judeo-Christian people for Judeo-Christian values, people that believe in faith, family, freedom, and becoming really radicalized left. And we realized that that's not a good environment to both build our company and build our families. So I moved out for that reason, and also for other reasons that are correlated with that as well, to Texas, which is a great home to build what we're doing. And what we're doing is what I'm here to talk about, and also to flag issues to the listeners here who probably already know this, but try to explain things in a way that I think other people are not explaining it, and in a bit of a contrarian way too, because I disagree with a number of the current thought leaders in the space. But what we're doing is we are creating new tech leadership. That means tech leadership that will take leadership from Silicon Valley, and we're doing it out of Texas. And we believe that that's absolutely critical for mankind, for Texas, for America, for the world, for the free world at large.
So everything you've described that was problematic seems to be pretty systemic to the West Coast, whether San Francisco, whether Seattle. You moved to Austin, right?
We did, yeah. We moved to Austin.
So you know, listeners are saying, "Oh, great, you've traded." But listen, it is better. Austin is a blue spot in the middle of red Texas, but just being in Texas is definitely an upgrade in terms of the things you describe. So when we look at the Silicon Valley and the Google environment and the Facebook environment and all of that, that's not a caricature, is it? I mean, this is a pervasive, all-consuming leftism that seeks to run all of big tech through that lens, is it not?
It is, and let me talk about the Austin thing real quick, because I know the listeners are probably thinking, "Man, this guy, jumped out of the frying pan."
For God's sake, move to Frisco.
Anyway, go ahead. No, exactly right. We considered all the places, and really, I fell in love with Texas. I visited all over Texas, every part you could think of. It's a huge state, so I was like, when I was done, I was like, "Dang, this is a big place, man." But I really fell in love with the culture. It's a culture of faith, family, freedom. It's a culture of business as well. These are things that, just very similar to my own ethos, my own spirit, and what I think is good for humanity and for the world. And they've got an openness that people don't realize that they have here, right? But let me talk about Austin real quick. We have an internal motto at the company, and that is to make Austin Texas again.
Take off on keep Austin weird, or make America great again, make Austin Texas again, because from the surge of homelessness to the leftist culture, the capital of the state of Texas does not embody a lot of the values to be found elsewhere in the state. On the subject of values, here you are apparently a social and fiscal conservative. How did you wind up in tech in the first place, and why are there so few people like you in that sector?
Well, I would say, Mark, I try to avoid even being, taken on any label politically or anything else. I try to just seek truth. And I would say if I have a label, it would be, follower of Jesus, Christian. And then I would say I'm libertarian leaning, but I don't like to consider myself full libertarian. Some libertarians could take it to a little too far from where I'd go on it. But I'd say and it's all contextual. What is the right political structure, depending on what's the base of the body politic, depending on the world, right? So, but jumping into some of the current issues, though, the issue at hand here, which is the censorship of big tech and technology problems in general, is what I have to say to you and listeners and everything else is that, we've got a problem where we have technology. We have a monopoly on technology from a few people in Silicon Valley and Seattle, right, that are radicalized left. They are radicalized left. They are not on the left. They are radicalized left. And they are bigoted. They are intolerant towards other people. They are arrogant enough to think they have a monopoly on truth, which nobody has. I don't have that either. Neither would you say that, Mark, that you have it either. And they are tyrannical enough to impose their will on the masses, on people that have trusted them and trusted their leadership with their data, their privacy, and they've exploited that. They've censored them. So we need to they've already crossed the Rubicon. We've got to step up as a country, as a people. Texans particularly need to step up. And I'm stepping up, and I'm creating new technology leadership out of Texas. And I moved here, and we're doing that, and we're serious about it. We're putting everything on the line, moved all our companies here, our families. And we need backing from investors, from talent that's elite, from people like you, Mark, who have massive influence, to get the influence behind us that we need to get a surge going. Because what I need to explain to people here is what they don't get is how rich that ecosystem is out there on the West Coast, in Silicon Valley and Seattle, where you basically have a cartel environment I call it the tech cartel sometimes. And I analogize it to the cartel on oil that we used to have, and we still have that. But that oil cartel was only broken. It wasn't broken by military power. It was broken by the frackers, and they don't get a lot of credit for that. But they really are heroes, because you can correlate, and I think it's correlated, possibly caused our ability to pull out of the Middle East and all these wars is heavily correlated with that breakup of the cartel by creating a new ecosystem. And actually Texans did that in the Permian Basin over in Midland. And they created a new ability for us to get a hold of oil and get independent of that cartel, which oil is fundamental to the West economy. Actually, the economies everywhere in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a cartel around that, you can control and hold people hostage. Now, we have a similar situation in the tech side. And we can't think that we're going to just, replicate Facebook. A lot of people say, oh, we need a new Facebook. We need this, Twitter. And I'm just like, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. That is not the right idea. Because in the end of the day, the monopoly, you have talent density. You have 80 or 90% plus of the capital going into tech comes out of Seattle and San Francisco, the Silicon Valley area, right? So 90+%, that's globally. And then you have all the talent density over there. You have this ecosystem that is, the soil over there is breeding bad fruit. So it's not that the fruit is so bad, it's that you got to go deeper now, because all the trees are bearing bad fruit. You've got all the companies out there that are doing similar things. Right. So you've got a problem of the soil out there, and we've got to go to new soil, and that's why I just relocated out here, because I want to be in soil where I'm surrounded by, in Texas, and it's great to be a Texan. I want to get into that a little bit more about Texas, but it's great to be a Texan. It feels wonderful, and I've got my first full-on born-in-Texas person here, which is my daughter was born 9 months ago here.
Excellent. So, congratulations.
But yeah, well, I'll stop there and let.
No, that's fine, because that's fine. You're on a roll, but here's where I want to take you next. So the notion of luring other tech folks to have some diversity of opinion and diversity of geography and move to Texas or who knows who else. There are some people who are saying that rather than have some new Facebook or new Twitter or have competition or something like that in an era of censorship, what we need to do is have government regulate and supervise some of what big tech does, which creates a conservative conundrum, because as conservatives, we blanch at the one-sidedness of Zuckerberg and Google and such, but also as conservatives, we're supposed to be against government jacking around with things like that. So where are you on that?
I would say I would take a contrarian position again with people on that, where they are all into doing that. And I would say maybe something needs to be done there, right? But that's not going to solve the problem. That's a rearguard action. And on top of that, does anybody, unless you're born yesterday, do you believe that actually the government in D.C. is going to be balanced, to represent the views of the American people? Like, no way. I mean, their views are pretty far left also. I mean, they're not radicalized to the level of Silicon Valley, but they are still far left. And there's a lot of data to show this, by the way. And I went to school at Georgetown. I went to Harvard Law later for a law degree, but I went to school at Georgetown, so I saw some of that. It's definitely way further left than the rest of the country, right? So I don't think we can have and additionally, by giving, it's not going to work anyways, right? Because when the government gets involved, all you do is you create barriers to entry for new entrepreneurs, and that's our hope. We need entrepreneurs stepping up that are grounded in Judeo-Christian thinking, so that way they have actual fundamental principles that they're going to use and that will restrain them from doing evil and encourage them to do good. And we need those people coming in and creating new tech companies. And we're leading the way on this with our company here. We're spinning up multiple startups, technology startups, that are already up and running, with a few of them already getting a lot of traction. And we're raising capital on this as well. So investors can get involved and help make this happen by backing people like me. Doesn't necessarily need to be me, but back somebody out here in Texas so we can get things going and start getting traction and start putting some points on the board and throwing some fists over there against the technology cartel, the monopoly, and start creating our own power out of Texas.
Maybe we can call it the Silicon Prairie or something like that. But welcome to Texas at Peter Rex on Twitter, Peter Rex, and the company is Rex.com. Every good wish for you. Congratulations on your Texas-born daughter, and just a joy to meet you. And let's keep in touch and make sure that everybody keeps track of what you're doing, because if there can be balance, both ideological and geographic, in the world of tech, that's nothing but a good thing. So a joy to have you, man. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate
you betcha.
it.
Peter at Peter Rex, REX on Twitter, and Rex.com for the company.